That's not. Okay, thank you, Tyson. Can I help you? Cause there's 3 of them, right?
I could.
There's one you grab for all you do. You wanna see it? I'm gonna put the glitter again, but you can see it.
Bring the cans then? Oh, we're having show and tell.
We're gonna do a strength test on them.
We're gonna put Dave in it and have him migrate on the 7th grade.
You know what? Put on TikTok, that'd be great. It's stuff garbage again.
Okay, right? I went to North Arlington Junior High as a kid. We're standing on top of.
Well, that is.
This, right? And I was just backing up on the locker, backing up, and I fell off the back and fell into a garbage can. I was completely stuck. I could not move, like butt in, you know?
We have some legs up.
Yeah. Luckily, right? I was glad I fell that way, but I so stuck.
Nobody's around.
Oh, yeah, there were people around, but they just enjoyed it. They didn't help that
Cameras back
fast.
in.
They helped that
Goodness,
much, huh?
They didn't help out that fast. So I was like, come on.
Okay, 6 o'clock.
Sorry, stop on.
All right. Welcome. We'll call to order the regular meeting of the Pleasant View City Council this Tuesday, November 26, 2024 at 6. Everybody, start with 1A, Pledge of Allegiance, opening prayer, reading or expression of thought by myself. Please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful to assemble this evening as the Pleasant View City Council. We pray for thy guidance, pray for that we will remember the almost 12,000 people that we serve. We will make decisions based on the overall good of Pleasant View City, and we're grateful for this time of the season, to this Thanksgiving, to remember our blessings, to remember what we have here in this wonderful community, the life that we enjoy. Great place to raise our families. Father, we're so very grateful for the moisture we received this day. We pray that we might have a good winter to recharge our water. Please bless those, our public safety and our public works, and all our employees, that they might be watched over and protected as we enter into these dangerous times. Again, we're grateful for the many blessings we enjoy. We say this prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Or garbage can. Okay, 1B is declaration of conflicts of interest. Have you reviewed the agenda? Are there any conflicts? Seeing none, we'll move to 1C, public comments, questions for the mayor, council. A member of the public wish to address us. Seeing none, we'll move to 2, consent items, minutes of November 12th, 2024, both open and closed. Changes, corrections?
Mayor, I'd make a motion that we can approve the consent items for November 12th.
I'll second that.
Motion by Marriott, second by Arrington. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I guess I should mention that Councilwoman Yuri called and she had a family something come up, and so she wasn't able to attend this evening, so we'll excuse her. Item 3 is public hearing, amend the budget, discussion, possible consideration to approve amending the fiscal year budget 2024-2025, resolution 2024-W. Laurie.
Mayor, can I make a
Well-
motion that we go into public?
Yeah, that's fine. We can do that first. Okay.
Second?
Motion by Gibson, second by Arrington. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. No, it's okay. We're in it.
So this is just to amend some of the items.
Yeah.
There's a few revenues that we're going to increase and others are expenditures. The building permits really have come in higher than I anticipated.
Okay.
And we've got quite articles that are future. So down there, I put back the building permits, inspection plan checks, the surcharge, the collection fees for Central for sewer, no free fire. So I put, like, for the building permits, we're going from 50,000 to 15,000.
Oh, wow.
That's the projection, yeah. So we're doing
We've
really good.
got a lot of commercial coming online.
Yeah. And just along with all those, the inspection 7,500 to 10,750. Plan check is going from 50,000 to 113,000. The surcharge $120 to 290, and the collection fees $150 to $160. So
Okay.
those are revenues in the general fund. The other one, we're gonna amend the budget in the police department, in their overtime and vacation. We did cash out a retirement benefit for an officer.
Okay.
And that's through them over, so that's 31,350. We are increasing the sewer fund by 21,000. We got some old, invoices from Pro Pipe, who is no longer around, which was $21,000.
It
then-
just took a long time because they were going out of bit or leaving the state. They didn't go out of business. They left the state.
Are those legitimate? I guess they are, they're right.
Yes, they were legitimate. We checked them with our maintenance reports that were given before they dropped the Utah branch for Pro Pipe and left the state.
Okay.
And so I don't know if in their billings, they were under somebody's desk in the transition and all of a sudden they sent the past due.
They did some 5S. Found some.
We bought, like 30 blue cans and 6 black cans for about $12,000. But to get us to the end of the year, we'll probably need about 24,000. Initially, we thought that we're probably going to do it, but we are buying cans. The next one.
So is that the addition, there's additional cans? So we did 30 and 60. So this is additional that we think we need to buy.
So we'd had that proposal before to look at moving to Republic's cans, so we budgeted at 0, and then now that we decided to do that, we needed
Okay.
some funding.
The next one is to add a capital facilities plan project in the sewer fund. There is one along Highway 89, by 1700 West and Harvey Drive, and that's $750,000. Start using those impact fund. And then the last one is the police department got a JAG block grant for some Motorola, for one Motorola radio for $3,350. We're gonna increase the revenue. Look at the one that's on your desk.
Oh.
I was gonna say,
We're balling.
Work. Okay.
That's about,
Thank
Okay,
you.
good.
for the last, for that JAG grant. So we're increasing the revenue by that amount and also the expenditure for the funding bill. And then with all these changes, there is a reserve fund balance in the general fund that just needs to be balanced for the tax bill.
Okay.
Gives us a 21% carry.
Great. Okay, questions?
yeah, the funding sources, the building permits and all that, those were all projected that we thought we would get at the beginning of the budget, right? Are there,
But they are coming in pretty good.
so is this still projected to the end of the budget year? It's not actually what we've
No,
done, but
Not
you think,
forgotten.
okay.
Yeah, our building permit fees set by a state schedule, do we set those fees?
It's a combination. With some of the building permit fees, they're impact fees, and so those are set on some pretty rigorous, standards. But with some of them, it really is reflective of our costs.
That's what I wonder.
The impact fees are the big ones. The other ones are quite minimal, and actually to the point where our building inspector has said, you might want to look at increasing some of these.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. So we say, yeah, we get this yield, but that's not like profit to the city.
No, most
I
of
wonder
it goes into impact
Yeah.
fees.
So on the solid waste fund with the garbage cans, I'm sure we're gonna get into that a little bit more, but are we, supplementing, subsidizing the garbage? Or is that covering for itself?
Now, for buying cans and if they need a can, they will pay for it. And they also pay for it on a building permit. A new residential home, it's on there to buy the recycling can and the black can.
And that's the cost. We're just
That's the
passing that
cost.
cost
Mhm.
through.
I think it's like $100 $133.94. I don't know, but we.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay, any further questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion. Oh, we need to go to. Oh, anybody, members of the public wish to address this? Seeing none, we'll. Mayor, make a motion to go to a public hearing.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Gibson, second by Marion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now I'll entertain a motion.
Here, I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2024-W to amend the budget.
One second.
Okay, motion by Arrington, second by Nelson. This will be a roll call vote. Arrington.
Yes.
Nelson, Marriott.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Euring excused. Motion carries. Okay, item 4, garbage and recycling services. Review the current garbage and recycling services provided by the city. Looks like Tyson and Amy are tag teaming on
We
this.
are, and Tyson brought visual aids.
Awesome. Yeah.
Just a second, let me get our power.
That's not like an analogy. You don't sit those by the pulpit.
Depends on the meeting.
Tyson thinks it's public.
How
That
they-
one on the right, I'm guessing is Republic.
Yeah, the blue one's Republics, so they're both,
Yeah.
both of them are manufactured by Totter though.
Mhm.
Who's that? Totter is where?
Yeah, and North
Uh,
Ogden uses
They're out
the
of
other.
state,
Or
so they manufacture them out of state and you're shipping them in semis. So that's our current can.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But it probably has to wait. So you think the lighter weight it wouldn't break?
Oh, no.
Just go ahead and give us the presentation.
Good.
Visual guy.
He was excited. He was excited to have these here. Well, Tyson and I have just, and I actually, this kind of going through helped educate me a little bit just through some of the analysis. I'm like, oh, that's really it, because I've had my opinions and my arguments and kind of where I think things should be, but appreciate Tyson helping kind of go through this.
Really, what's the cost difference? That's all I care about.
Total cost, not cost of that, we want total cost.
I want cost
So-
of those, I mean.
Well, we'll go through that, and sorry, it's not a ton of stuff, but, just put together just some of the history. I know that there were residents that have a lot of interest, and so I don't know if they'll come back and watch this, or we've got a couple of residents here. I don't know if this is the reason why they're here. But thank you for being here. We appreciate the audience. So just from a historical standpoint, the city began, working with the Conoways in the 90s, worked with them for more than 30 years. And, rather immediately, I mean, we were talking about renegotiating a contract. In March of 2023, we received notice that there would be a discontinuation of their services. They were cutting back on their number of areas they were serving, and it would start July 1st, which is really an incredibly fast timeline. And they did say that they would gift the city ownership to all of the current recycling bins, which really did help to reduce some of the costs and shifting with the providers.
Sorry, just the recycling bins, or when we're saying.
They didn't own, they owned all the recycling bins,
Oh, but
Econoways did.
We buy the black.
Exactly. So that was kind of a little bit of a shift in ownership. And it saved us like $200,000. So it was a big,
It's part of that original contract for whatever reason. I don't know the details of why they pushed it to that way where we were doing the black. I don't have those.
just something we inherited, right, Tyson?
Yes.
So then in April, we did the RFP process. Wow, I mean, thinking back to this time, it was just madness, but we did the RFP process, and then the mayor and I actually went and individually we went to the Utah League of Cities and Towns Conference Convention annual thing, spoke with each of the providers and asked them, we gave them a hand copy of the RFP and asked them to please submit. Even with that, we received one single submission of an entity willing to serve our community, and negotiated a contract, and that was ultimately approved. And I will, and I kind of highlight this in the next item, but give some kudos to Republic, as there was a major stress about a gap in service. So they really wanted to start at the end of August, and we're like, we really need you to start at the 1st of July. And we were able to accomplish that, and that was tremendously remarkable. So there was not a gap in service, there was no trash hanging out all over the city like I feared in my mind. So.
Yeah, and some companies, why we might not have seen as many during the RFP is there are ones that won't service your alternate can. They have their can, and if you're putting out an RFP that you're telling them you're gonna service, we're gonna do the cans. If they're one of those companies, then they're not even gonna put in, because they wanna swap out your entire fleet and transfer the whole service into their system.
And so, yeah, maybe that's why we didn't get more, I don't know, because part of the RFP did include some language asking for use of our existing cans, because we had a fleet of cans, and I mean, otherwise you're starting from scratch, and then it's a massive investment. So that's kind of the history on why we are with Republic today and where we are. I really like, and Tyson was very kind to pull these numbers. So I don't know, Tyson, if you wanted to kind of lead off on speaking to these, but just the quick breakdown of where we're at.
So you have the 2,389 accounts, the 5,742 combined, that's your recycling and your black can.
Does that include extra cans?
Mhm.
Yep, that's your
All of our
entire fleet essentially of cans. The existing, this year we've replaced 75 bins total at 0.3% of our entire fleet since February or January. to
And
now.
I think that number is so telling, because I know as an individual, especially I'm somebody who loaned my can to the neighbor and they cracked the bottom of it, but you know, it feels very personally impactful. But looking at the total fleet numbers and the number of cans replaced in the last 11 months, I mean, it's impressively low with the age of the cans. I mean, because we're looking at average age about 15 years between the two types of cans, and it's quite reasonably low.
Erica, do we have, that, replacement for the year before, for the last 2 or 3 years? I mean, is that
We didn't,
75 typical, or is it high, low, or where does that?
Has it increased with Republic? Is that what
Yeah.
you're wondering?
It's pretty close, like there was the spike, so in that initial turnover, you definitely had a spike, no question. The calls shot up, and that gets back to them pushing up their timeline, 'cause they had drivers in training, they were fast forwarding their process to meet our deadline. And it's significantly reduced, but I feel like a lot of that information from the spike is out there. And so it's kind of created that extra.
I thought
turmoil.
we're hundreds of cans. That's what I was.
So you're around the 200s, and it fluctuates, that's building permits. Depends on
Well,
how
I
many
don't-
X
I-
cans
yeah, I don't-
they get into.
I don't care about that. I want.
but the broken cans, right, this is,
So these are broken?
these are broken
Those are
cans.
just
These
the
are,
broken.
these are not add-ons,
broken.
these are just broken.
And this is, both garbage recycling and the X cans, and some of them were
Yes.
reimbursed through Republic because of, like, they got eaten in the hopper.
But these are ones
So there were-
they would have paid to replace this, right?
So
If-
out of
if-
the
For any reason they got replaced, that's what those are.
Yes, the
Okay.
total 75 is a strictly replacement, so there's an additional number on top for your resident
Yeah,
totals.
I don't care about those.
But
Yeah.
that's the 75, that's 9,
Well, 72 of them posted on Facebook about it, so that's why it's been a lot.
Yeah.
It's very tall, and it is. But again, to your point, of the 75, we don't know exactly how many Republic has broken.
so
versus-
there's 16 that we know of that they openly, it's at fault. So we have a list of 16 cans out of that 75 that
That's what I was
were
wondering.
public at some point, the driver dropped it in a hopper. or did some damage where they admitted fault to the issue.
But if they dropped it and didn't like say it was their fault, even though it would be, they didn't, that's not in that number, right?
So that's where, yeah, no.
That's great.
So that's where it gets gray. So the normal call is, you know, I feel like he was being rough with it, and I don't know what standard of rough. There's things smooth and
Sure.
clean about garbage pickup.
So I wonder if
process.
some of these, because there was a lot, you know, over maybe 5 years that you just see that are broken, have broken lids, and I wonder if that, when the changeover, if that got caught into that, I want a new one. It's happened, I don't know. Is that, I truly thought we were 200, 300, 400. I mean, I didn't know what the number was.
Well, and that, this is a number that surprised me as well, because we seem to get so many calls about this. So, but again, I think there's a lot of personal impact when somebody has to replace a can, and understandably so, so.
So
Sorry.
the difficulty with that 75, so then 9 of them are X cans that we just replaced. The 16 we would have replaced, no cost. to
And X
the
cans are
resident.
reused. I don't know if everybody knew that, but I
Yeah.
mean, that's why we don't charge the full cost, because it's something that somebody's used before. I mean, it already has wear and tear. It already
It's-
has.
It's been to unknown amount of homes, and nobody's owned up to how the previous owner treated it. Even the ones that repeatedly get one in the spring and then turn it back in the fall, they don't get the same X can every year. It's just
I thought
whichever one we
If I ordered
grab.
an X can, I had brand new one I got. Well, that
If
is-
we don't have any X cans, we just turn one into it. So sometimes you will
don't
get a
pay for
brand
it.
new X can if we don't have a return fleet currently. So in the fall, our little stockyard, you'll go up to, you know, in the 20s-ish or so, that we just hold on, and then come springtime, some people keep them year round, some people turn them back in. So, yeah, if we're out and you're getting more requests, we just make new ones out of the current new stock.
This is very good.
It's awesome.
How many of these old ones do we still have? The current one, the middle one?
That's the 5,740.
How many of the extra ones do we have? And that one's brand new. Is that brand new?
Yeah.
Oh, the
those-
X cans, about 30.
Oh, how many, not X cans,
Oh.
In circle.
That style.
that style, how many of those do we have?
Do we have in reserve, like, are we holding?
There's probably about 50 up in the yard of the.
Not X cans, if I have a new service and I wanna.
They're all that. I mean, we don't have any of the other style.
Yeah,
No, I just wondered how, our inventory is
Of new.
of those cans that we have.
We try to stick around 60 of each color now that we're doing the recycling as
And those
well.
are the
So
100
120 years.
And those are $120 a piece?
133
133.
for,
Yeah.
I thought they were 300.
All right, go ahead, sorry.
Mhm. No, you're good. And then just and we don't know this for a certainty, but with the recycling cans, most of them are kind of pre-with service, so about 20 years, and then the garbage cans kind of fluctuates. We're anticipating about 15 years, but we don't have a real solid number on the age of our cans. So that's just a rough estimate of the fleet. So with that, we did pull together this comparison, and I know there were some questions, and North Ogden's utilizing Potter. We learned Republic, it sounds like they get their cans from Potter as well. And so just some different kind of options there, and how that works. And sorry, Tyson, I don't have the numbers, but there are different sizes with the two. I can't remember, is it?
so the
6 extra
Potter
gallons.
cans are the 96 gallon and ours are the 100, the
So
rotational molding.
the right one is the Totter, the black one on the right.
The
The blue and the black.
blue and black, yep,
are
the two
both
side ones.
Totter. We currently, we've had the Totter ones for quite a while. on the
No.
recycling,
No,
right?
rotational molding,
So
middle.
They look really similar, so.
So somewhere in the switch, Republic's group, when residents call in for unknown issues, the city doesn't know how many there are. Currently, we just started to notice there's a few Republic cans out in the city. So one of the residents, something happened, Republic brought him out that can. And he hated it and asked if like, what is this? I thought I was getting one of my old cans back. And that sort of triggered well, they shouldn't have been bringing you a can, and then you start looking around and there's a handful out in the city. We don't know how many, total yet.
Liberated from some North Ogden driveway.
Yes, and we've found out, that they called in and apparently they paid $180 on the ones if I was a resident, so where they were getting the info to just call Republic. So some of them have paid $180 for the Republic can through whatever
Great.
process to buy. Yeah, where the residents calling Republic Center and they're saying, sure, we'll run you out a new one, $180 and is what we were told, so.
What's your vote?
Let's finish this. Okay. I've got a strong opinion about this I want to share.
I'm excited to hear him. So
Sure.
this does also break down some of the warranty information and honestly, and I don't mean any offense to Republic, but kind of looking at the comparables, unless there's more added, there's no warranty. The compatibility with the pickup equipment, I don't know with the breakage of the cans, if it's more compatibility or if it's more the age or maybe a combination, but the way that Republic described it is they're just a little bit wider on the tops. And so it's just a little top heavy. I don't know. That's the only thing I've heard, but ultimately
Probably
the
your
equipment can lift it similar to or equal to. So
Yes.
that's the only thing I've heard there, but
So, on the Totter one then, you have 12-year warranty, is that a warranty, or that's expected?
Yes,
lifespan?
yeah, so the brief conversation with that Totter rep, today, so obviously nothing formal at this point, but just trying to get some ideas for a quick comparison. But didn't get in how that works or the process to deal with that because they're out of state. So you're shipping in, I think they said from Texas, you're ordering basically a semi load, and varies based on order size. So talking with North Ogden, and it sounded like they felt like the best bang for their buck was the 312 cans in an order to be shipped in, and you were at like a $4,000 shipping fee essentially to just get the can to you. So how you work that in a 12-year body or components warranty, I don't
there'd be a
know
lot more.
that
Yeah.
currently, but
involved to get it.
So is it $80 per bin figuring in that shipping?
yeah, so that's
Okay.
That's the best case.
that's with the shipping and assuming we're gonna order that many or more.
Is it possible to co-order? If they only need 200, could we get 100 and whatever, or?
Those are things we could certainly look into. They brand them different.
312 or whatever.
Might be an issue with like the timing for both cities, cause
Yeah, okay, just one.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
something
I'm
we
sure we
could
could look
explore,
into
yeah.
it, but there are, I guess, a lot of variables with it that we would
Is
just
the,
have to
is the
dig
rotational
into.
motor, were they the people in Brigham City? Is that-
Yes,
And are they still there?
yes.
Mhm.
They still make.
And with the warranty, and
Yes.
I don't know, Tyson, if you talked with them about, with Totter with the warranty, but with the warranty in rotational molding, it's actually been really quite easy to kind of go and turn in the,
It's just that you can deal with it right locally.
exactly.
So,
They recycle them too,
They
correct?
do. They
yes.
melt the plastic.
So it's recycling, it's the local company. I did confirm with Brian that in North Ogden that, you can bring the Totter ones there and they'll recycle them into their system, cause that was a worry we had, is what do you do with all the broken cans? Cause we've only
Yep.
ever done that in the.
Yeah.
And so that was good to hear, that if you did switch to them, that we can still bring them up to Brigham for recycling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and without, they hadn't had them long enough that, they felt like they were gonna work out and they have high hopes for them, but that they don't have a long history with them to know if those issues with the handles or, cause there are I guess from the standpoint of the group servicing them, so they're hollow wheels. So if you're getting into how many, so yes, you're getting a cheaper can, but if all of a sudden you're dealing with warranties and repairs, that yes, you can repair it minus the body. If that clips, there's a clip in the back that holds the lid on the Totter can, and I get the idea, but it's like, you're trying to run that service through the group doing water and sewer already. And so if you start getting into, okay, now we have to have a home for 312 cans, don't have a place indoors like North Ogden. Those are just some logistical issues that I think we would need to evaluate before you would
Make a
make
shift.
some type of switch, just because of our sites are different, and they have a waste department that's doing garbage and the green waste site. And there's two of them, so managing that, I would assume, would be more effective.
How much time do you think you spend dealing with garbage cans and all this stuff? Like,
So for us, it's
Calls,
pretty
or-
minimal. The calls are probably the longer part, just because yes, you definitely get into sort of that process argument but that's probably the longer part, because most of the other steps with the garbage, you're going there for some other item. So the new residents, we're bringing them there with, when you're going to set a meter, you're grabbing the meter at the shop, you throw the can in the truck, and you're just doing it while you're doing your other duties. And that's why it hasn't been a problem, is there isn't a lot to maintain on the rotational molding one.
Yeah.
We have a little pile of wheels, we got a pile of axles, it's a solid steel axle. And so it's pretty rare that those are bent, and if they are, generally it was something neglectful happened, but either by the homeowner or the company. The lids, we have a stock of lids, some of the older ones that people are using them as their work tables, they've broken them, and we'll go just swap those out while we do other items. Yeah, they just sort of break on top, but overall, it's pretty minimal under the current system once
Yeah.
you get past the calls. And
So if we have lids, and the lids, I mean, they do break, but I think it's mainly the hinge. Does rotational molding just have a body without the wheels and everything that we can buy? And how much would that be? And would that be $50?
oh, if you're just wanting to swap out,
Because I mean, the hinge part is the thing that breaks, that snaps off. That's at least the ones I've seen, the majority of them, isn't that where?
I'm sure,
I mean, what percentage? 75%?
I haven't vetted it out, I don't even know.
I mean, you have
if
a
they
crack or something, I get that.
sell it, just the body, cause you're going in and, that's why the lead time's so long, is they're switching out the mold to your Pleasant View molds.
But if we can buy the lid, I just don't know why we couldn't, they're pumping out the body.
We waste lid or waste wheels, lid or.
I don't know, maybe
That's
we can
something
always
we'd
take
have
the
to
lid
vet
off.
out.
Broken can.
Mayor, I'd like to have an opportunity to go up and talk to them, get some information. Rotational molding.
Rotational molding.
Would that be okay? Just do a little, research on some
We
questions.
got more?
Yeah, we just have a little bit more to add. I don't know. Okay, so this was probably the most interesting piece to me, and I'm sorry if it's kind of small, but there's a lot of information. So kind of with our current approach, so 133 is the cost for the single bin, excluding the X-cans as we kind of described. But the approach has been for the homeowner to be responsible for the entire replacement cost. We've shifted that over time to like a 50-50. But overall, the focus has been personal responsibility and care for the carts. So what's interesting is if both cans need replacement, that totals to $266. If this were issued, and again, this is assuming that there's not additional, and I think that there would be if we shifted to just cover it in the utility bills, because people would feel that it's covered and they don't feel the impact. But if we just looked at the average replacement we're doing right now and monthly rate increase, it would look at $1.16 a month, but then over a 20-year period, about what maybe a can is utilized, increase is 278, and so you're looking at almost the exact same payment, but the difference being, well, lots of differences, but one of them is that you can dictate and kind of control how you care for your can. And with this, you're just automatically charged this amount. And it was interesting too, because even with looking at, you know, if we went with the North Ogden Totter model, the prices are near the same as well. So,
And that's what we've always tried to explain to residents. It's, the cost is gonna be covered somewhere. The current model, you have a mechanism that's asking them to kind of take care of it and monitor it. So if I can go 15, 20 years, I can save myself money as an individual. Whereas if you do the other version, that's part of that conversation, back to logistics. You're gonna have a wave of hundreds of cans that have been sort of rigged together, duct taped. Once it's known that it's this free and everybody's covering it monthly, you're gonna have a wave of swap outs.
So what is the
Yes.
proposal from the staff on this? What do you guys want to see happen?
well, and I guess from my perspective, and the next slide kind of goes into some options, but I'd honestly propose retaining the current approach. I mean, we could evaluate and look at the cans and the difference, the cost of the cans and that. But aside from, I mean, just the way that the breakdown is with the customers and looking at the actual numbers and the amount we're replacing, I think we're doing a pretty dang good job. It's hard for staff. So like, if we started an incremental shift over to the Totter and kept kind of the fleet we have, I mean, Public Works would be in a mess because then they're maintaining equipment to fix both styles and learning how to do that. So that's kind of where I'd land, and the things as part of these options too, and obviously we as staff want to take council's direction because this is something you hear a lot about as well, but just wanted to emphasize with communication, it'd be really helpful if we just direct the residents to Public Works staff, because every single situation that comes forward is unique. And sometimes you see stuff on social media and somebody will say, oh, well, you call Republic, or you do this, or you do this. And then it just gets completely muddied, and that really is kind of the main core message, is because a lot of times they can work with people. A lot of times there's somebody that's on Facebook that's super furious that Republic broke their can, but they've never called Public Works.
Yeah, and so one of the last postings, I think they referenced that, you know, I've only had this can a year. And so we still haven't even heard from that resident, that they're claiming that they've only had it a year and it's broken again. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Like, we've
But if
heard
it
all
is true,
sorts of
their
different stories.
warranty.
Yes, and they wouldn't have charged anything anyway. Or was it the X can? If it's the X can, we'll just have come and swapped it out anyway. So the ire is being drummed up before you've even evaluated if they're even paying for it, just based off of old assumptions or hearsay.
Trying to say, I laid in bed last night and thought about it for a long time. There's four things
so
in my
sorry, Bill.
experience, there's four things in my experience Pleasant View residents care a lot about. They care a lot about property tax increase, they care a lot about the speeding, the property at the top of 500, and garbage cans. Those are the four, and I don't say that, you know, it's the truth. We hear a lot about garbage cans. What if the city just got out of the business of garbage can providing? What if we just sent a parchment deed to every member of Pleasant View that said you now own title to your garbage can? It's yours. And now, if your garbage can breaks, call this number and here are your options. You have to have a compatible can. You can order it from this Texas company. You can pay $183 and Republic will deliver it to your house, or you can figure it out on your own. What if we just got out of the business of
The
providing
cost wouldn't
garbage?
be that. That's part of the challenge, is we get a bulk rate. And so
Well,
this-
but the Republic was delivering them to people's houses.
That's
for
true, that's true.
$183.
Yep.
So,
The city would never know, they would only feel.
well,
Yeah.
fair enough, but we do it the same way we do dog licenses and anything else, right? It's a violation if you're found with more cans than what you pay for the provider.
Well,
I know, it'd be hard, right?
I mean,
But
say
make it
something
a
first, and then I'll
$600
let you-
fine if they buy it. I make it something that, I just wonder if we get out of the business of providing garbage cans to people. People really want to own their garbage cans.
Yeah, I think it's opposite.
I think
Oh, maybe.
I
It's a
think-
Local.
penalizing 98.7% of the people to replace 1.3% of the garbage cans, whether it's through an increase in their garbage rate or just bailing off 98.7% because of the Volk 1.3, which is probably more like 0.13 that are actually on Facebook. I feel like it's the shotgun approach to it, to say, hey, we're just tired of dealing with you because you're complainers, and the majority of the 12,000 people aren't complainers. They're reasonable, they'll work. Some people come from a city where, hey, I just called up and the city brought, yeah, but you're paying that, and so is the other 98.7% of the people paying that every single month, so you can have a free garbage can, basically. And so, I mean, I see what you're saying. It is frustrating, but I always try to say, no matter who's the vocal online people are such a small majority of the people that we represent who are happy with our service, they're pleased with our service. They're, you know, until their garbage can breaks, then they're gonna join the 1.3%.
Yeah.
But they might not be vocal, but
Yeah.
they're not gonna be happy. A lot of it, I think, is the bottom there, is communications, they just don't know how it works. Now, I put in my newsletter last year, I believe it was last year, when we were talking about garbage, the very thing about, hey, we would do this, but let me tell you what would happen. Your
Yeah.
cost would go like this for about a year, and then all it's gonna go like that, because, hey, I got a dirty garbage can. I want a new garbage.
No, that's exactly
Right, and so it's like all of a sudden we're replacing, instead of 1.3, we're replacing, even if we doubled that, that would be, you know, not good, but I'm gonna say we're gonna double it and then triple it. And pretty soon it'll be out of hand, just because, you know, yeah, they're vocal, but I think it's just because they don't understand it, and it's like,
Well,
it's a matter of understanding, and I know there's a group, they feed each other, and I get it. I try to avoid it.
But
But-
so what do we allow? I'm assuming we don't, do we allow people to buy their own can if they come in and pay the fee? They have to buy through us?
Yeah, they
Yes.
gotta be a supported kid. They're basically,
You're buying into the service,
You're
and
buying
this
into
is
the
how we
service.
tell,
Yeah.
we say that this is how we're gonna provide it
Cause
is.
that's what I'm wondering. I agree with what you're saying. Could the 1.3% be solved by saying, as long as you pay the fee to, you know, to have the service provider, you can buy your own can and then you can own your own can. If you're really, I mean, could we allow for that if somebody wanted to do that?
I just don't think you could with the tipping, like the way Laurie's getting into it, cause that, even with managing it currently, you still will find residents that you get there, say it's somebody bought the home and there's 3 cans there, so that's part of, we'll take down all the numbers of all the cans in the swap. And then you come back and it's, oh, this person's only been paying for 1 can for X years, and somehow,
Yeah.
whether it was the windstorm or something, so it's already.
Steve.
So if you-
Steve, had a comment.
So I originally wanted this to come back forward because I wanted to understand the difference in the cans. And I appreciate that because that is huge in my understanding now of why one might be worse than the other. Because the toter can is a much more flexible lid. It's half the weight of the middle one. That could be the problem. I'm very excited that it is so low. I'm glad those numbers were brought forth. And I don't think we need to do anything right now, but I would like to, with the council and mayor and the public works permission, I would like to go up to the molding place. I've been up there. They used to be a customer of mine. I don't, that's 10 years ago, but I'd like to just see what some of the options are for myself. And I don't want to step on public works oppose at all. If I am, I just wanna see
I'll
what.
say we're happy to do it, but it
No,
doesn't.
I would like,
it's not
to
gonna
do
hurt
it,
my
just ask the
feelings.
questions that I have, and then I'd like to report back. And if they're the exact same, then that's fine. But
We're in no hurry.
yeah, but I think I'll echo what you said, Mayor, that what a small percentage of 75. And I would like maybe an additional information from staff to go back the last 2 or 3 years and see what our replacement, if it's about that 75, then then we're making a lot of over nothing.
The year, and Tyson hit on this, but the year that the transition occurred was significantly higher, maybe double, and again, it was kind of that transition.
I think if we did.
We can get the total.
So I just like to go back and see if we're really, because I was under the impression that it was a big deal that everybody, cans were breaking.
Same here, I
up
got
and
lots
up
of
and down
calls.
the Street, and so I think I'd like to leave it at that. I appreciate what you've done.
Yeah.
I think that's, for me, it's answered a lot of the questions, and the information that was presented was done really well, and I appreciate that, so.
Dave? Yeah. comment?
Yeah, this is awesome discussion. I appreciate it as well. For me, I think I have several, I think we'll talk about, but one of them is the messaging, right? Because all of the residents own their own cans right now. Phil, to your point, they do own them. They paid for them when they get the
Lease.
building permit.
They kind of,
Leases.
It's
They
a
lease them.
lease.
Yeah.
So it even has property of Pleasant View City on it.
Yeah, I get that, but that's
Okay.
really the message is, hey, you've already paid for this can. If your can, say your can it's $135 right now, right? If you paid $1 a month for that, it would take, what is that?
20 years.
No, it's less than that. It's not, it's like 10, 12 years to pay for it.
Well, for both cams, 20 years, so about.
Okay,
yeah.
I see both,
Yeah.
both cans, but so, and if you can get them to last as long as possible, I mean, I had ones well over 15 years. We want them to last a long time. They'll continue to last, and there's no sense of just changing them out until they do break. It would be way more expensive for them to add it into our utility bill to cover all of them. The ownership of them and the responsibility of them by the resident is gonna be the cheapest method. We want that to be the lowest cost for every resident in the city to do that, right?
and I think they'll take better care. of it.
Yeah, they'll take
They
better
are.
care of it and they'll own it. And that's what we have right now, right? That we currently have that method right now. When your can breaks, you come in and pay for it and you buy a new can. You try to keep it going as long as you can. I think that number's low right now, the 75, it seems really low. But I also think there's probably a couple hundred of repaired cans out there that are jerry rigged with duct tape and whatever else on it to make them last longer. And maybe that's okay, I guess, if it works, if they can still dump them, right?
Yeah, and we were trying to off voicemails because we weren't historically tracking every outcome. Because some they'll tell us, oh, I'm just gonna go duct tape it. So out of that 75, we may have gotten 20 more calls, and that was the solution was, oh, I have to pay for it. Well, I think I can make this work. And I mean, we've seen every variety of repair to
I mean,
a can, and there's no problem. And we just tell them as long as the lid function works and it doesn't, stick out and hinder the trucks, then
So,
you know,
so
be
to
my
me,
guest.
it's the messaging of that, right? We have an average can usage out there over 15 years. And we're keeping track of every can that's going out to it. So we'll have good data on this to know. But we just need to message that to our residents that, hey, if you want to have a duct tape can, that's great, but you're gonna have an ugly can that's not very functional at your house. Go pay for it. It's the cheapest cost you have right now to go buy that can and keep it and maintain it on your own. Other than putting that cost into the utility. So, but the other thing is the messaging of it. We just got, I like need to call Public Works, let them take care of it, not us getting involved in the discussion all the time. Let them do it.
Yes,
another
because the
point.
warranty discussion doesn't work for recycling cans because we don't have most recycling cans because we don't have that historical
Oh, yeah,
data.
mine's over 20 years old.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so any of those they're under the
General.
Econo Waste, we tried to get that info from them and by the we were told that they didn't have it anymore, so we
So,
couldn't do
so a couple
anything.
more points on that is I like the bigger can. I think all the residents would rather have a bigger can than have the smaller can. There's quite a bit of cubic feet difference, right? In there. I don't know what the totals, I didn't ever see that on there,
I
but,
think you said 96 and 100.
oh, it's that close? Oh, I thought it was lower than that, but maybe it's not that big a difference. I don't know. Trying to think of what my other point was. Oh, the Republic part of it. I do think, who was the Public Works guy that was a driver? Was it Mike that was a driver? I was talking to him about this
Yeah.
because in my mind, hey, this is a system issue because everybody thinks that Republic is damaging their cans. And I think there's a combination of that of, hey, these cans are aging. So yeah, you're gonna see more of them right now. But they're also, I do think that there's something Republic can do and do a lot better at it is that the can. I watched my street this last week when Republic went down. Every single one of the cans had the lid flipped backwards on it. It was always flipped backwards. To me, that tells them they're lowering those way too fast and they're flipping back every single time. That should be unacceptable for Republic to operate that way. In my mind, we need to go back to and tell them, if you can't lower the lid back on the can every time, your process is damaging our cans, or it's putting undue stress on our cans. If they have to slow it down by 2 seconds to do that, that's something they need to do. And I talked to Mike about that, and he says, hey, it's a very difficult process. You're running several levers, hydraulic levers when you do this, and so it's not perfect every time. But they've got to do something better that one. I think these trucks are designed, there's things they can do on their trucks to control speed. And in my mind, those lids should never be flipped backwards. If it is, it should be very, very minimal. It shouldn't be 100%. There's a problem with it. So I think that has to be addressed. I don't know if Republic has talked to you guys about that, but to me, that's undue stress. And that's where it's hitting that hinge point every time. So-
Yeah, we brought it up, seems like a couple of times back in the big spike. And to me personally, those calls have lessened. So
Yeah, I
there's
think it's better.
obviously some work, whether that's the driver training or
Yeah, I think-
adjustments to their truck. I don't think they're just being completely ignoring our pleas for what can we do to sort of minimize these issues, but.
I think we should ask that question of them, because in my mind, I say, hey, this is a problem that needs to be solved. What are you guys gonna do to solve it? Because you're causing stress to the can. And my suggestion would be, if you can't get the lid back on it, you get out of the truck and place that lid back every time. And that is a punishment, basically, so that they will go fix the problem, fix the issue.
Yeah, and even.
And Mike says it's not possible, it's not feasible, but I believe it is. It's something that can be solved. So-
Yeah, and in North Ogden, where I live, and having Republic, I'll go 3 weeks, my can's always up. Randomly, there'll be a week it's laying over in the park strip, and
Yeah.
so I'm sure there's something you can do, or there's, whether that's where it happens to grab it, I have no idea, but it definitely varies.
Yeah,
So I
so-
just don't know how we would police that effectively with a contracted service.
I don't know, I guess I'm not asking you to police it, I'm asking us to ask them
To ask the question.
why that can't be done. Because of your process is putting undue stress on the can. It shouldn't ever have to be that way,
And
so.
that we have, because we talked about it back when there was the wave in your neighborhood, and I think there was a wave in Councilwoman Yuri's neighborhood where we reached out to them, and I know that she at least came back and said that, hey, they've been standing upright, so thanks, whatever you did. So again, other than just sending the representatives those messages, like, we won't necessarily know, or we can't go follow the police,
We can talk to them.
So
truck regularly, but we'll continue to communicate that to them.
the other part of that too is that, to me, it's the quality of the can should be a part of that. I mean, I was in college when a lot of these were starting to come out, and I watched a plastics professor. He had a thing dumping on these. I bet it dumped the weight, I don't know how many thousands of times these things, that they should last a long time, right? They're designed to last a long time. I would ask all of these guys, Totter, when you go up there, ask them, how long are these cans designed to, how many times should they dump? The black ones they're carbon black in there to help with UV rays, right? It's better. The blue ones are gonna be more brittle because they don't have that in them. And that's what we saw. We saw those recycling ones, the long ones, those were it wasn't this type of can. We don't want one that's kind of
It's-
close to this.
It's,
The new
it'd be
ones-
the black that's just blue.
But the new
That's
blue
same
one that
style.
is similar to like this that we get from,
They're all ours are like the middle.
Style.
But
So
a
it's
few
just
of them
blue.
that have come out, like he mentioned earlier.
no, I
I think we have one here for a
I
while.
have a blue one that is not like that one. Did I,
Yes,
is that a
they're,
Conaway one that came out?
yeah, they did a,
Oh, yeah.
so that was back. I don't know what year. Yeah, 4 years ago, they
Mine's
did a little
5 years
swap.
old, 6 years
Cause
old.
they sent a thing out to all their cities and asked us, recommended to stick with rotational because they tried the other one. And they
Oh.
felt that it was problematic, cause we have a letter somewhere in the file that asking us to, hey, there's new companies, new methods coming out. We've tried them and I guess as your service provider, we're, recommending that you stick with this can, the rotational molding. So I think there are a couple of random from that era where they were trying them out.
Yeah. So back to, I think the messaging is, I think we're doing the best we can do right now. I mean, there's some options, things we need to talk to about, but for me, we have the best method, the cheapest method right now to do this. We just have to message it that way. That's my thought.
Can I have your comment?
Sure.
So I agree with Dave that we need to communicate better. I want to talk about lease versus own. Why are we saying that they're leasing it?
Why are we?
Yeah,
Why aren't we or?
why are we saying it's a lease? Why
They
can't,
don't own it.
why don't they own it?
They can't take it with them.
Yeah, they stay with,
If they
Why?
move, it's their
Why?
property.
Residents.
Why can't they take it with them?
That's what I'm saying.
Because they're just leasing them.
Well, what
That's
I'm
why-
saying is if we
why-
say you own it and we provide the service, so let them take it with them. They paid their $135, take it with them. Who cares? Right? Because then, so, that's what I mean. So why don't we
They-
send a message?
House, the same, they sell everything else.
Right, so I think we should send the message of, we provide you a service, you own the can. That's how it was when I was a kid, all the time. We own the cans. We hauled them to they weren't as nice either, right?
We
There's
will
5
have
of
to
them.
ensure compatibility with the contractor and like with liability
Well,
on it.
she's saying you still buy it through the city. We can still be the
That's
merchant
semantics
of
of it.
cans.
I know, that's what I'm
But
saying. It
it
is.
solves that 1.3% issue.
Cause in my mind, I own the can, I wash it out, I do put it in a good place, and I take care of it, don't load it so full of concrete that it, we're at the.
So I think I would like to entertain that idea of you own the can and we provide the service. I'd like to entertain that as far as like communication. I'd also like to entertain the idea of switching to over time, the cans that are more compatible with the truck. Cause I just think the center one's just,
Are they gonna
Well,
hold
they've
out?
got a 12-year warranty too. I like
True, they do have a warranty.
12-year warranty.
yeah.
I don't know how hard it is for us to fulfill the warranty. That's why I would like a
Yeah.
privatized model instead of us being the intermediary.
The only problem, they purchase them on a building permit, so the owner is not really purchasing them, but whoever the builder is, they purchase that for that home.
On behalf.
And then when they leave, the people leave, there's still a can there that the new people coming
That's a
in.
good point.
Can surface is already there. So kind of, they buy it for the house. I don't know how you want to say that.
Yeah, but it's not a it's not a titled asset. It's a couch. It's a chair on the front porch. I don't have to convey title to a chair that's on the front porch. When I sell a home, it's conveyed with the home. So it's not like we would, I understand what you're saying. Would we be keeping a record of who the owner is? The same. We would
We
keep a record of how
probably
many
how many-
cans are being paid for at each household, but not necessarily who's the title holder of the
We
can.
do have can numbers that belong to that house, because when in windstorms, people call us,
Oh,
I lost my
that makes
can.
sense.
Look for this number, they
Yeah.
go look for that number,
That
and
makes
get their
sense.
can back.
yeah,
So-
it's just on this right side of that can, there's a serial number that's associated, and that's how we track whether it's an X can versus the
Sure.
home can versus the neighbors that blew over there and they kept.
Yeah, so my concerns are compatibility and also just communication of if you own it or lease it. I just think it's gonna be easier on us if you say you own the can. So that's all I got.
And the math is, it's $133 in the current cans every 15 years, it's $9 a year is what it's costing people to replace a can.
I think it's even longer than that, though. I mean, that's what we think it is, but we don't have enough
Sure.
data out there.
Based on this year's
This-
attrition.
Yeah. but-
Mine is 30.
Yeah.
I've had mine the whole time
So that's,
since we started with.
I
black.
think, honestly, I think
horrible.
you share the PowerPoint presentation on Facebook. I think you screenshot that specific slide that shows the percentage of cans that have been attrition rate. And I think that'll do a lot of, and if your can breaks, here's who you call, because I wouldn't know who to call. So you want it directed to your department. You want it coming to Public Works, but
I just think it helps, cause yeah, we
Then
can
they
go
can-
through all those variables.
so if that's what you want, then that's what we should.
It's $133 and it's gotta be done.
They shouldn't call Republic, right? Or, I mean, that's.
No,
Oh, no, it
because
should
of the
be.
way our contract is with them, and that's kind of muddied some of the things because some individuals have called Republic directly, so then they've come and brought new cans. We're not even aware
Yeah.
that the can was replaced, and there's just all of these logistical things, and what's crazy, you know, in discussions with the public, they don't even know if they can tell us where they've replaced the cans. I mean, we drive around the city and figure it out, but they're just so used to just delivering the cans, and so,
I just don't wanna make Republic mad either. I don't want them
No.
to say it's not worth serving Pleasantview anymore, let's go elsewhere.
No, but
'Cause-
there is a level of service that we should expect
For sure.
that they provide, right? And I think they are good. I mean, they're in multiple city, I mean, they're a national.
national company, and they really did get us out of the bind with that whole. so
Yeah,
I-
no, that's a great thing. I get that, but I just say, hey, and they'll say it's because we use our cans that they're the majority of the problem, right? I think that's what they're coming back and saying.
Yeah, they generally will remind you in that, but most of that list is the driver dropped the entire can in their hopper. Those are the ones that are, most of that 16. They, whatever button or lever they hit to release jaws drops it in the hopper. But even
Alright.
that's. only
All right.
those.
Thanks for clearing that. It's good.
Let's move on to item 5. should
Go
we?
to the last slide,
Let's do it.
questions.
Planning Commission recommendations. Zone text amendment. Consideration of a text amendment for manufacturing and commercial parking requirements ordinance 2024-23.
Thank you. Before you this evening is an item to look at evaluating the parking in our, I'm so sorry, Larry, I'm gonna borrow your, is that your pocket or that's Mr. agenda? Thank you. Yes, yes. Just so I can have the language to refer to, but, we had someone that was working to, expand their facility in the MP1 zone. And a lot of what the expansion was freezer space. And, in looking at our ordinance for MP1 zone, the parking requirements are very focused on square footage. And so the question was raised and in raising that question and then looking at our ordinances with all of them, that I felt comfortable in kind of evaluating. Some of our zones have a provision, you see that kind of as the cross off, but that there is some discretionary consideration of the planning commission in looking at the site plan and how that plays into the parking needs. And so the language recommended by planning commission, they did have a little bit of a tweak to this, and I absolutely supported what they were saying, but is a petitioner may submit data from a traffic engineer, civil engineer, or qualified engineering professional regarding specific land use, number of employees, or other relevant factors, and then the planning commission may consider this additional information when determining the total required number of parking stalls for a site plan and may adopt an alternative total required number of parking stalls that aligns with the unique needs of the use. And part of,
Amy, is that whole thing all new,
um,
or is it just?
most of it is,
Okay.
so you'll see above, on 1827,
Yeah.
57, it says that there is, some ability, and actually it's more vague because it says or other appropriate source, but the planning commission felt that it should be somebody that's qualified to speak from an engineering standpoint, and the reason being, you know, who is that other qualified source? And just kind of as a starting place, and I really didn't have a good replacement for who that other qualified source would be. You know, if they're asking for for less stalls, then there should be justification for that from a traffic standpoint. And so that's kind of where that comes into play, but really with our growing pains and and some of the challenges we've faced with that, I feel that this gives us enough flexibility depending on the type of use that's coming in to consider how that use is impacted by parking and what the needs are there. Most of the time, a developer knows what their parking needs are and is going to propose such. I mean, you're gonna see very rare and few in a commercial standpoint, at least. I don't know, manufacturing, maybe try to squeeze a little bit more, but even with manufacturing, that's gonna ask for less stalls than what they need because of employees, because of customers. They don't wanna make it unworkable.
I have this question, sorry. It, can the council, or sorry, the council, not the planning commission, could they make a decision if they didn't, could they make a change if they didn't receive data from a professional?
Not based on this language, no.
Okay, because I wondered if we should allow that. I don't, I mean, why do we always need a traffic engineer, civil engineer, or qualified engineering professional to help us make that decision?
And that was
So-
the planning commission's recommendation, and they felt if someone's asking for something contrary to what our ordinances required, they should have some type of professional justification.
Other than I just don't want to do it.
I can
Sure,
see
I
it
could save
taking-
money by not
Huh?
putting more stalls in. They could save money. Like, I think it's a good idea to have some teeth to it.
It takes the burden
Off
off
the
them a
planning
bit,
commission.
because I do think, I agree with Amy's point, but you will have a business owner that won't anticipate the need for parking at a time, and then all of a sudden they hire 20%, they haven't grown,
Yeah.
and so now all of a sudden, if they didn't have those stalls, it would create a problem.
But what are we gonna make them put stalls in? After the fact?
Keep the space.
We
so
can't.
like-
So
No, I
once
know,
a
but
site
that's
plan.
saying, so why we're doing it up front, but we're.
Yeah, so this is part of the site plan process, and so once a site plan is approved, I mean, that's a site we get for that location unless they make changes physically to the
Someone's gonna
building.
come and say, okay, I have 20 employees. And like it's mainly warehouse space or freezer space or something, and that's.
Well, they're gonna go off of the floor space that
Right.
each of these zones
But
are.
but it really comes down to how many people are there, so they
Yeah.
say we're gonna have.
It does.
But most
That's
every
what-
time
that's
they've
what
already
we don't
enlisted an
have
engineer.
now.
It's not.
Is
True.
that,
Add-on.
it's like, it's based on like square footage, not number of employees. If you're gonna have this big of a building, you need to have this many parking places. And so it's been one size fits all, and all of a sudden we get somebody that comes in and says, look, I'm building a freezer, I'm not hiring people to
Right.
work in the freezer.
And I get
Okay,
that.
and
that's-
so, and, that's just one
So
example.
will
but there
this
might be
lessen
others.
the amount or this
It
raise
could-
the
It would
amount?
keep the amounts, well, it's whatever the commission decides.
It would provide a
Awesome.
pathway to lessen it
Yeah,
if
lessen.
there's a
There's
professional. improvement.
But
justification.
most of these are after the fact, really.
Yeah.
I mean, for this particular one, if I'm thinking, I don't wanna say who it is, but.
But it was an application,
but
Yeah,
they-
it-
site
but
plan
the-
application.
The one particular one that wants to have a freezer, I couldn't even find when I went down there, I couldn't even find a spot there was no, I mean, way under parking spotted or parking stalled,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Well, which is where,
And
again,
so-
that professional justification comes into play because
But there's no place to add parking spots down
They-
there.
They
There's no-
they did add some though.
Well,
They're
it
adding
is, but, I don't know, I mean, that's, anyway, I don't know.
So to your point, Steve, I think the concern is also if a business is doing something like, let's say they only have 3 employees, they got a 50,000 square foot building.
Right.
They flip that building, we don't do a new site plan for the new business that comes in.
not unless they modify the, yep.
So now it's all of a sudden a Walmart distribution center. And that's much, so I think that there's a reason that the expert would weigh in, because you could come in and I was persuaded during the presentation. But then you go visit it and you can't find a parking spot. I think it's good that there's a third party, because you can persuade the planning commission.
And I get it, I mean, I see what we're saying, but it's just,
Yeah, I agree.
but we set a number, whatever that is per size or whatever it is, or make some justification because we're adding freezer space now. We're not gonna say, okay, you need to add or take away some of that parking, are we? I mean,
Well, and this is
No.
providing the
Good.
option to consider changing
Changing it to-
the,
to-
I
to
mean, with the
less,
additional
yeah.
impact, yeah.
But it should be just, I mean, I think of basic convenience down there. They're in our city.
Mhm.
They've got ample parking space. I don't know what that was put on, just along the front, it was there. There, you know, they're gonna add another,
Never gets used.
yeah, it never gets used, but it is there just in case something moves in that we, you know, for feedback, whatever that was based on, I don't know what number, what rubric that was based on, but anyway. Well, yeah, I mean, there needs to be something in there for this particular
Well, I think
thing, which,
that's the problem, that the one size fits all doesn't really fit all. I mean, that's.
but what I'm saying is one size doesn't fit all anyway.
But I don't wanna just make it a crapshoot either. It's
You know,
got-
the
That's
new
why
Bo-
the
The
professional.
new Boyer
is gonna
building
say-
down there.
Yeah.
You know, that's a huge facility.
Mhm.
If that really turns into a huge manufacturing facility, there's not gonna be enough parking. Even though right now, you think, man, there's oodles and gobs of parking for that. I don't know how you figure that anyway, on anything. You know,
Yeah.
bring in these engineers, bring in whatever it is. It's just, you know, let's roll the dice and say, I don't know how that's figured. I don't know. I'm not saying either way. I mean, how do you truly?
Well, at a certain point, the business solves the problem. They shuttle people in and they park in an off-site facility.
Yeah.
They do purchase, there's things they do.
So-
There'll all be robots.
So where do we set that thing anyway, up or down? I mean, that's what
Yeah.
I mean, there has to be a common sense thing, you know, or.
So there are
driveway.
standards for every single zone, but they're all a little bit different. And I guess that's kind of the point of this whole thing is that we can have a standard that's a little bit different than even what's been approved in the zone because MP1 and MCM have different parking standards, and that's kind of what raised this issue to begin with. But even CP1, CP2, CP3 have different parking standards than C1. And so it's just, I mean, we have the standards in each of the ordinances, but rather than go in and adjust and change all those standards, it's, if there's a reasonable, justifiable means to reduce parking stalls, this gives that ability.
Yeah, and I get it. I mean, I'm not arguing that. It just seems. I don't know how we even set those numbers, the first set of numbers. you know?
Well, that's part of it. I mean, there's an industry standard.
Because it really does. I mean, look at the new Amazon place down there in Harrisville. Or in Harrisville,
Merritt
Merritt
Right,
City.
so-
Oh my gosh,
You got lots of parking.
a lot of parking down there.
But that's
you know,
because they historically know what
but
they're gonna need,
historically,
not
the-
necessarily because it was required.
Right,
what
but
they
is that,
know they're
but
gonna
that
need.
is historic, they set that probably, or
Right.
did Marriott Sladeville set that for them in their ordinance? I
I'm
don't-
sure, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I'm curious, if Amazon's
Yeah.
moving a direction, they're not gonna have a bunch of people working in warehouses.
And so you'd think if someone builds a building, like Boyer, they're gonna kind of know,
Mhm.
and so the government, you know, Pleasant View comes in with our ordinance.
Well, I think that's what's good about this, and I thought, well, hey, maybe we didn't need a third party, but a third party can give a recommendation. It
It's like doing a
doesn't,
study.
true, but it's based
it's
off,
on-
it's
it's
based
on
off
their-
historic.
It's on them, but why do we need a study for them? Why do we need to bring in
Well,
that for
they-
anybody?
We're not paying for it, first
Okay,
of all,
well,
that's,
Well, if they want to reduce the parker requirement, they need to show
and they're gonna give
why it's
historic.
justifiable.
So that we don't end up with, yeah.
I mean, we
facilities
don't wanna
under
have three parking stalls for Chick-fil-A. I mean,
No.
you know, that's silly. That just goes against.
And Chick-fil-A
common
would never
sense.
do that.
And Chick-fil-A would never do that, that's what I'm saying. So I don't think we go into Chick-fil-A and say, you gotta have 75 parking slots. They're gonna say, man.
They
for-
know
for-
exactly how
For a
many they-
restaurant, we need this many turnaround, and we shouldn't have anything for that necessarily.
But everybody that comes and does business with us isn't Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
They're people that don't really know, and that's why there's industry standards
Okay,
and why there's
well,
standards in
alright.
here. And all we're saying is, in the current ordinance, we do not have the ability to deviate from that.
We have
Yeah.
some ability in some of the ordinances.
some of
and
the
This is,
zones,
and this
yeah.
is to try to give it the same across
Parity
the board.
around all of them.
Alright.
To your point, though, Steve, last thing I'll say is restaurants, we say 10 per 100,000, per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. So I imagine for that Chick-fil-A, that might be, they might have 2,000 feet of floor space, do you think? So that would be 20 spaces plus 1/2 for each. My point is, I bet that our requirement is below what Chick-fil-A will actually do.
I get, I would think so.
We're setting a
Absolutely.
floor, but they'll do more.
Yeah. Hopefully they've learned a lesson from 12th Street Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, they thankfully got a boss, so they just. don't use the
Their
boss.
site plan is very excellent. I will say that just from review and I think we're not gonna have a problem.
Good.
We do have a building permit.
We do have a building
From them.
permit
That's a big deal.
application.
That's awesome,
Big deal.
awesome.
Okay, do we have a
I do. While you're changing the language, can you look at the item below number 7 there, item 1? It shows the stall sizes and it's like 9 foot X, X 18-foot minimum. Do you see the X's in there? Is that a normal buy
That's
definition?
350 truck.
In our code it is.
I just wondered if we ought to
Actually put by or.
put buy or explain what that
X.
means. X,
Unless it's everywhere in our
There's,
code.
yeah, it is. There's lots and lots and lots of cleanup items. And I forgot to share, there was one other thing, planning commission had asked that we look into, and Tammy did some research on this, but the question was, and it was more, from my perspective, a code enforcement question that was raised, but how many vehicles can just be parked on site and left there? And so I thought that that was a good question. Tammy did some research into our commercial and manufacturing zones, looking at storage, and also looked at the nuisance codes. And so, obviously it requires some dumpster enclosure areas for C1, C2, but it doesn't address specifically parking in those areas. And then also, compliance with conditions of approval there. And so, I believe that the site plan and anything in the building permit business license would be subject to that. CP1, CP2, CP3, there were some conditions of the sites there, and then there's some screening required in MCM. MP1 didn't have a lot of detail with regard to that, except for the public nuisance and some of that. And so the public nuisances, I think really is probably where that would fall more than anything. So there's a section in there, wrecked, inoperable, or abandoned vehicles or equipment, and kind of goes into depth with that. These items shall include motor vehicles, boats, recreational vehicles, ATVs, trailers, and equipment. They shall not include operable farm machinery, and then any vehicles or equipment with parts taken from them. So, if things deemed inoperable, and that's something we could address from a code enforcement standpoint. My guess is if it's something legitimate and operable for the business, then it wouldn't, pose a problem or a hazard.
All the stuff you're talking about now, was that talked about planning commission?
Planning Commission had asked staff to do some research and share it with city council, just with regard to if people are leaving vehicles on the site, and if they're like old rundown vehicles, or if somebody has a trailer they want to park at their site of business, or some of those different things. But again, I think that for the most part, this is addressed and it talks about the different things. So if it's considered a nuisance, then we could address it.
I think that's better than zoning.
Yeah.
I think so too. And they wanted to make sure it was addressed somewhere in the code and
Okay.
shared with you. So
All right.
I just wanted to make sure I followed through with the conditions of what they asked.
Thank you.
back to that, the X that I was talking about. If you look in 18.33, the next page, 50, I don't know, it's C, item C in the middle of the page there. It does say by 9 foot by
Oh, yeah.
18 foot in there. I don't know if we want to make this language the same, just to clean up
Every
things.
X, change it to a I.
That's what,
This, the code of every zone. So there might be another section
In
that same.
this is
zone.
just the parking sections of each different zone.
So there might be X's everywhere, so if you change, I don't know,
uh,
go through and.
that one seems simple to me, but it's all right. If you didn't leave it, I'm good.
I can bring it back as a cleanup item, if that's helpful.
I-
For this, I'd be happy to do that. I don't. think
Only
that'd
if
be a-
there's other things to clean up.
I search and replace.
Don't say that. 'cause
Fine.
There are.
It's through a multiply.
Mayor, I'd like to
Sure.
make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2024-23.
Second.
A motion by Arrington, second by Nelson. Further discussion? Roll call vote. Arrington,
Yes.
Gibson,
Yes.
Marriott,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
you're excused. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 5B, general plan amendments. Consideration of a proposed amendment to the community character table of the general plan to provide distinction for rural residential land use classifications corresponding with the language and specifications in the future land use map, ordinance 2024-24. Amy,
Thank you, Mayor. before you this evening is something that came forward when we were evaluating some other land use items with regard to planning commission consideration. And in looking at our general plan, there's areas of it that specify in text that rural residential can only be 5-acre lots in the text. And so really that would do an A2 inapplicable. But then also looking at the first attachment, attachment 1, it shows that the A5 and A2 are applied in the rural residential category. And there's also a discrepancy there. It says 0 to 1 dwelling units per acre, which is not what the intended language is. And so the request, I guess, is to just clean this language up and have 2 different designations here and specify what the designations are. A rural residential 5, which would contain 0 to 1 dwelling units per 5 acres of land, and the implementing zoning district that we currently have in place would be A5, and then adding a rural residential 2, which would be 0 to 1 dwelling units per 2 acres of land, and the only implementing zoning district we have at this time that would apply to that would be A2. So I don't know if there's questions. It really is mainly a cleanup item.
Well, so right now, isn't our A5 technically called our agricultural? Isn't it? Doesn't have
So it's
agricultural-
currently called rural residential.
Oh, it is.
So this is this is what's in the current general plan.
Oh, that's the current.
And I am actually as per council's direction a couple of months ago, working on updating the entirety of this table, adding a lot more specification and detail with what each of these mean, because the challenge that we see, and we saw this recently with a planning commission item, when somebody comes to this table, it's not abundantly clear what this zone is, what this represents, and what it's intended to accomplish density wise. You know, there's a lot of abbreviations included here, and it can be problematic with the vagueness, honestly. But for right now, it is I guess with the general plan, it is more general. So the designation and distinction of what's described in the general plan is rural residential.
Because I'm saying 1808, it says the zone A5 and zone A2 class agricultural, so is class different than,
Classification is like.
it says the class is agricultural, and we've got as class.
So those are agricultural zones, but this is the designation in the general plan. So the general plan, I like to look at it like a jawbreaker, but it's kind of the outside of it, and it's looking more generally of what type of use is appropriate here. And so that's where you get some of these that actually have some crossover, like with the low density residential. There's actually RE20 or RE15 that could fit that classification because of the way that's defined, 2 to 3 dwelling units per acre. But again, I am working on updating the entire table, but we didn't notice the entire table. We just noticed these 2 items. So this is what we were able to bring forward, and Planning Commission did recommend approval to make this, because there is a major challenge and problem with the way these are defined in those first 2. It seems as if it's 0 to 1 dwelling units per acre, and it's not in fact that.
Yeah, that looks so much better. On the first table, super confusing, second table, super clear. I think
Just
that
wait
looks
till you see the
good.
third table after we notice. it.
Really? No, that looks really good. I think that's great.
Any further questions?
Yes, and I'm sorry to be.
No, you're fine.
So in our general plan, we currently have no designation, land use classification that would be agricultural. It just says rural residential, so there's no agricultural general plan.
Not a specific classification. So these are the different land classifications here.
Those are all of them. Okay.
And it is kind of wonky, and we do want to update our general plan. But oh man, I'm excited to update this table in and of itself, because, and I was all excited because I overdid it, and then I'm like, oh, it doesn't match the notice. We're not ready for the whole thing. So,
So A5 is the largest classification then, right? That we
so the zones themselves are not the classifications, and part of the reason why is the zones can ebb and flow and change from time to time. And so the land use classification is more of a broad kind of look at it as what's the appropriate density for this area. And then from there, we look at, what are the zones that could be utilized under that density. And so
Gotcha.
it's a much broader brush of, is this density appropriate in this area for future land use planning?
That is surprising though, that isn't that kind of a standard classification though, as being agriculture in most areas? I mean, in cities and counties, I would think it would be
Like
agriculture.
historically in Pleasant View, did we ever have a general plan, like a area of the city that was agricultural? That's what I'm wondering. Was it always like?
Probably.
I think it was all agricultural
But-
until you changed it to
Well,
something.
and I.
Rural residential is defined in the general plan. Oh, sorry, Ian.
No, agricultural, isn't that more like deemed by the tax, like Weaver County? And they
Yeah,
say
you
this
can
is
get an
deemed
yeah,
agricultural
you get
because
your
you
green
got.
belt exemption, but I'm wondering if we ever had a portion of our city that we had designated aside. We wanted
As
this for agriculture, I'm sure historically, but I just
Yeah.
wonder when that all went away and it became only residential or commercial.
What were those lots on, between 2,700 and 2,550 that we changed to commercial? What were those before we changed
I think
that?
they were A5s.
Was that? What was that? That was
That
agricultural.
predates me. You remember, Laurie? 700, the ones that we.
We just did it, say.
See, but there was something there that was very low tax.
And there is a lot of green belt. So green belt is a whole nother matter, and there's still some land down there that's
So
green
where
belt.
was that zone? Because that was.
It doesn't matter. It's a federal designation.
Yeah,
Well,
it could
but
be-
that was something else that was very low. I can't, I thought it was agricultural.
It probably was.
What's that?
A5 zone.
Yeah, but I don't know. His question is, what was the land that we rezoned strategically commercial before
Between
it was?
Sunpro and the.
Probably.
See, so we did,
Was
so we
that,
did.
I'm just wondering, here's the reason I'm asking, in a couple weeks, we're gonna have a conversation. And I'm wondering if this progression of amending the general plan has ever gone from 85% of the city was designated as something we called agricultural, 20% was residential, and now it's agricultural has disappeared completely, and now it's just residential.
I think, and we could do some research or call the ombudsman's office, but I think way back when, if I remember right, when cities were trying to set aside in their general plans for agricultural, the state ruled that, no, you can't do that because they have a right to do with their
They
property
live.
just like everybody else. So if someday, he doesn't want to farm anymore, you can't force him to farm.
Yeah.
If he wants to sell it and, so you need to craft a plan that says, okay, what do we want to be there when it's no longer agricultural? So I think the assumption was everything's agricultural until it's not, until it's classified something else.
So are you saying in a city that you can't have an agricultural zone?
No, you can't have,
Or
you can't classification. You can't say, we're gonna save that whole part of the west part as gonna be agricultural. First off, nothing's growing there. Even if you've set it on the hillside, you can't, because of property rights,
They need another zone.
Yeah, they can keep it agricultural as long as they're using it for agricultural. And then it can be under green belt, but it's gotta be used for agricultural, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and we could check with the but I'm pretty sure I remember that. I don't know if I remember that from business on college, if I remember it from planning commission when I was on the planning commission, remember it from city
So
council,
what's
but
Tina's, that, where they farm right there, what's that zone?
I can look.
Is that A2?
I mean, agricultural, I could have RE20 and have a farm on that. Agriculture is a permitted use.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like, Thompson,
Maybe not.
Thompson or the Tinuses or something like that, where they are farming, that RE20 there? I mean, is
it probably defaults
it RE20?
to, no,
Like my grandpa's farm is in a high density residential
zone.
zone. But he's just got a farm that he's had since 1932 there. And the city has grown around. it. So on the general plan, it's high
Yeah,
density.
it could have been all rezoned by somebody somewhere down the.
Exactly.
Generally,
Which is good for him. He-
So this is
yeah,
our
just-
future
gotta be
land use
exemption,
map.
but-
And so this will show you, but, oh, sorry, I'm not,
We
mic-
need the
although
current
I've
map.
been told I am the loudest person in all these meetings.
we need what's currently zoned.
Well, but I wanted to show both, so I have both up. So this is our future land use map. So this shows you kind of the breakdowns, those designations and kind of where they fall into the map. So this is what we're looking at right now with regard to the general plan. So I know there were some questions about the current zoning, and see, that's where kind of the I can't think of any terms right now, but the rubber hits the road, that's what I was thinking. Wow,
You can use any of those you want, you can make one up.
Yeah.
thank you. Sure.
The apple doesn't fall too
Potato
far
chips.
from the cherry tree, you know, something like that.
Good one. So this is our zoning map and,
Makes her metaphor.
and has, you know, the breakdown of the, but this is more specific, and this is where the rights are vested. So our land use, here in the general plan, it's non-binding. I mean, it's important, we probably should do everything we can to follow the general plan, but at the end of the day, we legally don't have to follow this.
Well, it's,
This we do,
the general plan needs to be somewhat fluid too, because things change.
right?
This is not to say that, you know, I mean, things change. That's why you revisit the general plan. Anyway, so what's the current
This is the
zoning
current zone.
of say, the Thompson property or the Tina's property?
Yeah, so if we look
1,000
down, yeah, it's
or,
1,000 west, and,
600 west.
and there's even areas that are zoned A2 that
600
shouldn't be
west.
because they're not
Across
even
from
the
the park.
full,
600 west,
Yeah.
across from the park.
so that's A,
That's the other way. across.
A2. Oh,
Okay,
right
right
here,
there.
but
yeah.
it's the same A2, sorry.
Okay. So,
Others cross the street. The mayor knows how I drive maps. So there's areas like, see right here, these little strips back here, these are zoned A2,
So,
it
and-
shouldn't be,
and-
because they don't match so it's messy, they're
Yeah.
half zoned, and we tried to clean that up and
Yeah, it
the
didn't work
residents
out well.
weren't interested.
all right, so we're deviating from the agenda items, so we probably need to come back.
It's fun though.
Yeah.
It's fun.
To just summarize, what I would like to do, and I think I can get those from Lori, it sounds like, is the old general plans. And I don't know if those are something like downstairs in the basement, we have them on a wall somewhere or something.
They're the
but-
vault.
Yeah, but I would love to see that transition to demonstrate the principle you just talked about, that general plans are amended over time.
Oh, yeah.
And I would be willing to bet that the current half-acre house I have right now was sitting on a zone that was called agricultural use at some point. And
Oh.
it used to be.
I
in
know
the
one
orchard,
hundred
and now
percent,
it's-
my third acre lot it was, because it was the US.
I do have in my emails fresh that I can send you an older one.
That's why it's like-
Yours is from the US Forest Land.
Yeah, probably, exactly.
Okay.
Thanks.
So, back to ordinance 2024-24. What's your pleasure?
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2024-24, general plan amendment.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion by Arrington, second by Marriott. Roll call vote. Arrington,
Yes.
Gibson.
Yes.
Marriott,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Yuri. Excuse, motion carries, all voting.
Sorry, my items are so painful tonight.
Okay. Other business. Chief, interim chief, should say.
Couple
Acting
things,
chief.
we, Sergeant Doan has worked really hard and got us granted some more, over the next few weeks, we got some, seatbelt and DUI shifts, so we'll have some extra patrol in the city on the weekends and nights, I really like that. And then the other thing, I was talking to Councilmember Mary earlier, so we redid our, uniform allowance, the way that we do that. The way we used to do it was, every July, the city would cut the officers a check for $960. When they received that money, they would get taxed. And then they would just be, the uniform would be their own responsibility to get it. Basically, what would happen is they'd be taxed when they got it. And then when they would go purchase their uniforms, they would get taxed again. So what we've done is we've moved to what they call a Star Card program through a local business. And, so the officers can go to that business. We send them a roster. It has each officer, they can spend up to $960. That business then sends the city a bill. What that does is it's tax-free, it's tax exempt. So the officers are basically able to go, buy their uniforms tax-free. They get the uniforms at state bid price. They don't get taxed when they get the money or when they spend it. We did the math and it's over a 20% increase on their uniform allowance at no cost to the city.
Actually, less cost, because we have to pay MACG taxes.
Oh, good.
Matching
So,
FICA, yeah, so.
Oh, yeah,
it's
so
less cost to
FICA,
the
yeah,
city.
that's awesome.
yeah, so it's a really good thing because I have heard over the last few years that the officers felt like they weren't quite getting enough. But this gives them quite a bit of an increase at no extra cost to
That's
the
cool.
city, so. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Tyson?
Oh, the plows made it out for the first time tonight. Mark it on your calendars.
Thank your staff so much.
That's up top. Yeah, and they, great group and I'm glad we have each and every one of them. We're
Didn't
in-
get anything.
Not yet, it's early. We've got some storms to go, I'm sure.
Little cobwebs and little rusty.
It's always rough. The one plow was stuck inside the shop yard on the way down here, so there's always something on the first storm. Never not.
It's the same with drivers on the road too.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So we all gotta relearn what we're doing and how we do it. Yeah. We're implementing some safety practices that should have probably been happening for years and big shout out to Bryce for continuing to research a lot of that. It will slow down sort of that initial response time while we implement it and work it in, but it's for the driver's protection, equipment protection, liabilities for the city. Cause they're required practices that should have been happening for a long time. So there, you might see some hiccups with just as we get those implemented to get out on the road. It will take some time and we'll try to work it through. There's a letter going out for lead and copper. Mike Hurst, his group, worked on lead and copper rules to meet the new.
Is this a standardized letter that they're using throughout the state? I
Yes.
noticed on the news, there was a lot of confusion. People were calling the news, people are thinking that you're notifying that they have lead in their water. And so I want to make sure we send a clear message that no, you don't necessarily have lead in, but you might have lead pipes. You need to figure it out.
Yes, it's a very big rule shift
Yeah.
that the state's working through, so Mike, they've been working through with the Sunrise Engineering that was hired by the state division to implement the rule and build these maps to build our lead inventories. Pleasant View, how they're classifying them as I guess gets into that where they are standard letters, so it was picked by the state and that engineering group. They tried to make them understandable by residents and throughout the state, but yes, there's been some confusion. If you're getting questions about it, send them our way. There's the Sunrise
I'm
Engineering.
sure we'll get some questions.
Yeah,
Cause like I said,
Sunrise
it was a big thing on the news like last week about
yep.
people
People should
panicking and
be getting
freaking
them
out.
now. It's been a rough program for
Yeah.
water systems, the state. The topic comes up quite regularly, on debating even among the engineer group and the state on how you're supposed to be dealing with and meeting the rule. There was some big confusion in the beginning on how far you were supposed to take your inventory plan. So we've mapped it out. Met all the check marks for the state for the rule for the compliance by November 16th. And that letter was the final that's sent out by that group. Their numbers on it as well.
Is this different than the regular water report we get yearly?
Yes,
This is an addition,
this is a new regulation.
just for lead.
And I have a copy of it if you want to see it after. I don't have a printout. or
Maybe
anything.
we'll email it out tomorrow.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
So everyone knows.
Just to
what's-
give you an idea, but the engineering group's numbers on there as well, so if residents are getting it.
Are those standards different than we've had before then? I guess, have they upped it or?
After, I think Flint, Michigan actually, is
Yeah.
what kicked this all into high gear.
Cause we always have
Yeah.
lead, and we have it on our regular
Yeah,
water
The
report.
whole
We've
country
always
has
tested
old-
for lead.
old lead, yeah. and
So
we
what's
test
different
for-
about
I
this?
mean, They got, you gotta
Needs
do
some
the
So
light.
this one, the long-term goal, this is the beginning step. They're figuring out, this is your inventory for all water systems across the state. We built a map that said our side was built under this era, it should be poly, or it was built after the lead rules and the copper, 1989. So any homes built after that, the lead rules were in effect, to the fullest extent, but anything under that, it's unknown, and so you put they did a survey, in the beginning, sent it out to residents. We had to take all our plats and vet out years they were put in. So you built the inventory, these are the unknowns. And so you can't say definitively there was no lead. And that's what it's warning them, just how to deal with those lead services, if you even have it, but it doesn't mean that you do.
Okay.
Hey,
Most
you
of-
used to chew on lead paint as a kid, I'm just wondering.
Yeah, so this is the beginning, the
All
next
starting to make sense.
the next phase is, and they're debating what the percentage is, you have to start removing those unknowns and lead with replacement, and that's, they want to know what the extent is to say whether you're gonna replace as a water system, you will replace 10% of those unknowns a year, or is it gonna be 15, or is it 20? But you're supposed to come up with a plan now that you have that inventory to remove every one of
Was
them.
Flint the infrastructure or the source water?
Both.
Cause I mean, it's hard to, I mean, what can you do with source water?
Oh, source.
Source water coming out of
They-
the wells, if it has lead in it, or is it just the pipes, the infrastructure going through?
They switched sources, and the new source reacted and was more acidic than the original source.
So then it was the infrastructure. that was
Yes,
somehow-
and then it was leaching the lead out of the infrastructure into the water, not that the source had that in it. It was pulling it out of your, so Pleasant View's pretty fortunate, and that's what made it kind of complicated is we missed the big era. We don't have, lead gaskets in our main. We were out of that. We don't have full lead service lines that we know of, so.
We did have wood.
Woods.
Unfortunately, I haven't got the pleasure of seeing an existing wood main, though I would like to. I've seen them on walls and older water systems, but Pleasant View, because of the change out with that water company, you missed a lot of that, and they came in on the iron and mechanical joints, so you don't have a lot of that. You have some of the copper issues. And then another, just heads up, also a new rule is the PFAS. I don't know if you've heard about that with culinary water. These ones, they're building those new regulations as well. We were picked to be one of the sampling. Again, Mike's been working through that. We've done, I think, 2 rounds of it now. The forever chemicals that you've started to hear about. PFAS,
That's.
PFAS.
Like the,
Plastic.
no,
It's,
well,
it's
some plastics,
your
but it's
Teflon.
Teflon, that's more.
Like the chemicals in your clothing, and they're starting to evaluate how big of a threat they are to culinary drinking systems across the country. So yes, we were picked. At some point, you're gonna have some regulations with that. Luckily, the 2 rounds we've done, I can't even name half of the names of the chemicals in
Chemicals.
those ones.
And we passed.
But we've been below the standard or no detects in
You
the
have good water.
PFAS, so that was good news.
No.
Absolutely not.
That's not an
I'll
issue
tell
that
you what.
Tyson's passionate about.
Sorry,
Not about that.
sorry, I have a sore point with that one.
A little bit of bleach.
You do so much to protect it. You do so much to protect your drinking water, and you put a known carcinogen in it, so it just blows my mind. I can go on if you want
No,
more
that's good.
info. I've got articles. Oh, good. Sorry.
Amy, what do you got for us today?
I don't have anything further. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thanks for all the staff and that you all as our elected officials do. We have such an amazing team, so thank you.
Laurie? Bill?
No, thank you.
Dan?
I just have one quick question.
Okay.
Are our meters, like our water and gas meters, are they gonna be compatible when we get the fiber live? You know what I mean? Like, are they already up to speed for that?
Ours were at about 50% for the auto read change out, but it's cellular data is what we're.
Okay.
our-
Right now?
We don't
Are they
control the
with
gap
Drive-by,
meters,
or are
so.
we getting automatic feedback on
No,
those?
ours are just through your mobile data, so that's why we picked it, is because you could implement it at any point, anywhere in your city.
Okay.
Without having to do extra infrastructure like reaching out or install anything outside what's already there.
So, okay,
They are getting ready to send out a letter for those, because we haven't pushed that well.
okay,
Because when you're doing the new residents, putting the auto read online, when we're there doing the meter, usually the resident isn't around, so you didn't really get it, or they were too busy, but we weren't getting great users signing up to have leak alarms, so notifications you can set up. Only like
okay.
all the residents sign up. For us, that's an amazing, your operators there, if they're looking into a leak and have an auto read, you're down to 5-minute data for their whole history, and you can see right when their leak started.
Will alert you when the leak, like, will you be able to catch the leak sooner?
Yeah,
Will it
that's
alert
a
you
big
that-
alert,
To
so-
you too, Public Works? Okay,
So we get there's a big master homepage for us, that's the whole entire account, you know, the highest user in the whole city on the auto read system. So we try to focus on all your big commercial meters.
okay, cool. Yeah,
Do you have like protocol
Is
to
it?
respond to
Like
that? Like,
Yeah, so
like
they.
when you see a leak, you're immediately going and somebody's looking at
Not
that date.
immediately. So there's sort of a range where you figure it's the drip and you're not in it every day. They try to look at that list like once a month. There's a few that they're so big, like the master meters, it's always on the leak page, because there's so many meters behind that meter. Somebody's always running something, so it's not. But if a big one, you notice a big spike, sort of call up or start to go look around. But like about once a month, I think they do at least this. Right.
Yeah, I just wondered what that is. That's fascinating to me, but is that 100 gallons in a 24-hour period of, I mean, it's constantly going and it seeds 100 gallons.
Yes.
That would trigger
So it
something.
sees continuous usage, so some are, it's pretty low, because it's down to in the tens to read that.
So if I change the water in my hot tub,
Yeah, but it's
It's a
not running
one-time
hot.
thing.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's going for a while, but
Yeah.
continuous use
Right.
is the big issue, right?
Yeah.
won't flag that.
That's all I got.
Okay, so I guess,
No, that's awesome. I just was reminded that out of the 13 ways to kill your city, water is, if you neglect the water, that's the #1 way to kill your city. So I read the whole book a long time ago. It's great.
Cause I
Awesome.
highlighted it.
Christmas,
I
was like,
know.
hope that-
I even marked it up. I got lots of good stuff.
Now I don't know what to give people for Christmas. this year. Yeah.
No, thank you. Yeah, the uniform allowance, thanks for sharing that. Officer Talbot, that was awesome. That was, I saw that and I thought that was a great improvement. I would suggest that if we could, I know you talked about the safety, but could we maybe have that for other business as like a presentation on that? I know Bryce doesn't really want to present it, but could that be another council meeting to share that?
Safety.
The improvement that Bryce did and just present that to the council. I don't know if that's something,
We could talk.
Just reinforce.
I just would like to, I mean, we're doing a lot of really cool things right now in public works and police, and when we have a success like that and to show what our current situation was and what improvement we made and why it's important, I think it deserves a few more minutes for us. Yeah, I mean, so, I know Bryce doesn't want to do that, and I know it's a little bit of extra effort to present
It's a
it.
great learning opportunity.
But I think it's really good, and I'd like to recognize him for the effort he's done, so. The excess property, I don't know if we, has that been taken care of? I don't know what the rules are for that, but you have a stack of excess property up in the
Surplus property?
surplus property. I guess that's probably a way to, better term for it. We access a lot of stuff, but I don't know what the rules are for that. It's sitting around waiting for it to get out of here and it's stuff.
Depends on how it's classified. If it has value, then it has to go a particular way. It has no value. You got surplus, then you can throw it
You
away.
can throw it away. Does it have to go to a third party to surplus it? Or does it, something we can do here?
Statewide, if it's, of value.
It's the reverse of your purchasing policy.
Exactly right. That's what that's what the law is. You have to follow your purchase, what you had to do to purchase it, is what you gotta do to get rid of it. So some of it has to go, and there are companies that take some of the stuff. I don't know how you've been doing it, but like if it's vehicles, you can go through a particular, I mean, we used to surplus a lot of computer stuff, and the count had a contract with the company that would take the computer, and they take care of the garbage or good stuff. That's what the contract was. And but they were on the state contract list, which means they were approved to do that kind of stuff through the state purchasing. So yeah, there's a process, but
Do we have that set up? Can we, I mean, cause right now we're tripping over it. It's good. We've gone through this 5S process and we've identified stuff that we're never gonna use. It's not of value to the city. Why take care of it? Why store it? Let's get it out of our system and get rid of it. They've identified that's great. So-
Yes, and I've personally found the smaller stuff to be more difficult to get rid of because it's so debatable across
Whether it's valuable or
Yes.
not, yeah.
and not knowing what the original purchase terms were to follow that. But, you know,
we had ours divided into controlled assets and fixed assets. Fixed assets, I think we define in a purchase process. It was usually like $5,000 or above, or whatever it is in our policy. And so a controlled asset would be like a keyboard or a monitor.
It's got an asset number or something.
It's got but it's a controlled asset. If the monitor's burned out, go throw it in the garbage,
and that we do,
you know,
if it's
that
just
kind of stuff.
completely-
But if it, you know, if it was a fixed asset, a lawnmower, still ran, but we don't use it anymore because it doesn't work very good, you know, then that was usually goes to either a company that will auction it off on our behalf. And there's a state contract, I think TNT is one of them, but there's a state contract that will take all your stuff and auction them off. They take a percentage and give us the money. Or if it's a vehicle, you can advertise the vehicle and accept bids, that kind of stuff. But usually because that's how you bought it.
So I don't know how we determine if it is, I mean, we know we don't want to dispose of it, but I don't know if we need some type of a method to do that, to say who's determining whether we don't need it anymore. But I would like, once we've identified that, I'd like to get it out of the site. Let's get it out of here and not have to have you deal with it over and over again.
Yeah, currently, I think for, I guess, our group specifically, it's just been a timing thing. If there's enough going on, it's
So what
sort
are we
of
talking about?
over
Maybe
here.
something
and
Well, I got a picture of it. There's
It's a washing
an
machine.
old desk, a washing
workout
machine, some
equipment.
old workout equipment that never got used.
2 desks.
A couple of
So do we-
pictures.
Aren't we supposed to be surplusing it, declaring it surplus, and it should, the list? So, yeah,
To city council depending, so it's not,
generally you have a list that says, okay, we want to surplus this item, and it's non-working. This item, it's non-working.
we've done
This
it
item,
with evidence before, that's
Put it on so-
probably,
put it on the bid list.
we say, okay, we've surplused it, and then there's a process to get rid of each one of those classifications. So we just need to get it on a list.
So I have the list, the part I don't have is what you would do with each item, because I haven't figured out yet.
The yard sale.
So I don't know where.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
taking those
and I'm
items
happy to
after.
help you with that if you've got the list, Tyson, or we'll
Yeah,
work
we-
through it,
okay.
yeah.
We have it listed out, it's just, yeah, the end goal to even come and ask, because some of that stuff wasn't Public Works original, so
It was
I didn't
inherited,
feel like it was
yeah.
my place to just
Right.
go and
But-
throw put out somewhere and just to get that approval and, but I don't know where I would take those yet.
The one, I mean, you know, if it's a questionable washing machine, it's no longer used here. It's probably something that should be taken to the landfill, okay?
Recycling.
Or recycling or
Yeah.
whatever. What you can't do, what is an absolute no-no is, you know, hey, you know, John, hey, can I have that washing machine?
Right.
And that's what you can't do. You can't, just employees can't just take stuff home or if you do, it's like, then it's got to go through the process and say, okay, anybody want to bid on this? And John bids 50 cents and nobody else bids against him, then that's fine.
Could it,
But
I mean, what I don't want to see is have us spend more money trying to get rid of it
Right.
than we're gonna make in surplusing
But
it.
that's just, I mean, we can't really control
I
that.
know you can't control that, but could there be things, and I think I asked this before, but could it be raffled off to a city employee? Could it be
No.
Donate to school, could it be?
donate, yeah,
Yeah,
I,
you can
or could
donate
it be
stuff.
raffled?
You can give stuff to other government agencies.
So we
You
can
can't
donate all
give
of it to the
things
school district
employees.
then.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that,
It's from what you got, but-
I'll take it
that was
over.
with some of them, you know, we were thinking at one point even the DI was thrown out for some of them, but it's like,
They can be donated.
I think this is something that could help with benefit the police department too, because we have a lot of stuff that has just been sitting down there forever. And I really think it's because none of us have really had the time to go and learn and know the process of getting rid of it.
So if you can have Alicia give a
So-
list, and it sounds like Tyson
Yeah.
has a list, I'm
Well,
happy to
we
be
could
the
on-
product.
So if
project
it's something we
navigator
can
or
help
whatever.
out with just knowing the
Make sure we follow the laws.
process and the policy on how to get rid of it, like, we're more than willing
I
to
actually
help.
think by state law, you can look at this up, I think the purchasing agent is the one that's, because you do have to follow. I think that's the one that's responsible to say, yeah, you can do it this way, or no, you can't do it that.
Yeah.
But I think we have the same problem.
Yeah,
We just have
everybody-
so much
everybody-
stuff that
Every agency collects stuff, and never get rid of it because they don't know.
I don't know really.
Unless it's
Well-
actually broken and the boss says, yeah, go throw it in the garbage.
yeah.
We've had a room this size that had used computer equipment. Because, you know, it's like, well, nobody dared throw anything away.
Yeah, like
Well,
all our
I mean,
metal.
'cause
we
we've
could put it
replaced
in scrap.
300 monitors in a year, county,
Yeah.
you know, and
At
other.
least in the county, it sounds like.
Just a lot of computers.
A lot of hard work at the
Yeah, I just,
It's a little easier now with the flat screens, but when they were the big monitors, that took up a lot of
Right.
space.
these guys have done some great work at getting rid of stuff and identifying stuff we're never gonna use and it doesn't have value, it's in the way, it's taking up good valuable floor space and let's get rid of it. If we could help, I don't know how, if I could
I'm
help.
happy to help facilitate. Yeah, I'll add it.
I just- Yeah,
Okay.
okay, and then last thing is, really appreciate the effort. We did kind of go through a list of websites that RFPs that came in from website providers.
Oh, good.
It was really good and really insightful. There was a few, 2 or 3 really good front runners that they're gonna vet out and we got a meeting for that,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yep, we're
soon?
gonna have
Oh,
some
yay.
interviews with them and they're gonna be really fun because we're gonna play in the sandbox is what they call it, but
Yeah, I-
actually get to see how it
Cool.
works on that.
Yeah, I think
front end.
I think that's gonna be a really good thing and so, and the ones that we liked were probably some of the cheap ones, so that's even better.
That's awesome.
So I came to pick up my paperwork today, and I just asked Tammy, where is the Chick-fil-A? You know, where is that in the process, the building permit? She knew nothing about it. So where is that? Is it on us? Is it them? The
Oh,
application? Because
huh.
I was really surprised when we got a little message.
We do have one, don't we?
Huh?
She could tell you, but she'd have to shoot you. Is that the
No,
deal?
she wouldn't. No, I'll,
No,
I'll
but-
talk
but I
with
just-
Tammy. No, it's in the,
I just don't want it to be on us through some. of
yeah,
our-
it's in the building permit queue. So I had gotten a text from our building inspector group and they basically said, hey, we've received this application. But going into the queue, it was still hanging out in the kind of
Well, but
submitted,
she-
so now
I
it's
would
been
think you
moved.
should know about it.
Yeah,
Probably it'll
yeah,
fall
I'll-
Through, so anyway, something didn't quite add up, and I just, don't want us to
We'll talk about it at DRC tomorrow.
Yeah,
be holding it back in some ways. or
No.
something.
no, I
Bring it
don't
on
think,
or let us. I
Do
just
not
wanna
know.
follow that through, not
No.
be our fault.
yeah,
If they're waiting for something from them, that's on.
I don't think they're waiting on us at all. right
Okay.
now.
Dinner, December 4th. Everybody still planning on being there?
I'm
Know
kind of
your-
nervous.
You know your assignment and bring $6 per couple, 3 $1 bills per person. In lieu of, my wife's like, oh, try to talk him into white elephants. I said, no, they won't go for it.
I got a good way.
Okay, I'll tell him Dave went for it. Anybody
That
else?
stuff hasn't been surplus.
Okay. Oh, other than that, that's all I had. Welcome to our guests. Did you guys come for a particular reason or just wanted to see government in action? Oh, okay. Oh, uh-huh. It will be on December 10th.
Yep, December
That'll be
10th.
on the December 10th agenda.
But now you know everything about garbage.
Yeah. Exactly.
On the record?
Summed it up perfectly.
That is the quote of the day.
Very tight.
Have a motion to adjourn by
I'll second the motion.
second by Arrington. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.